Good morning. Welcome to Ziggy's Rants. And today my rant's going to be about last night's leadership debate. Now, before I get started, thumbs up always helps with the reach of the channel. Subscribe and share. They're the three things you can do that will help massively with the reach of the channel. So if you can do that, please, thank you very much. Now then, on to last night's debate. It was as I thought it would be, an absolute shit show. I'll say that. It was. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'll start off with we'll start off with the Labour leader. I know it's a general election. I know the Tories are in government, and I know he has to go after the Tories. That's fine. But he did not go after the SNP and John Swinney as much as he should have done, because it's a Scottish leadership debate. And he hardly touched John Swinney, hardly pulled him up on anything that's happening in Scotland and why it's happening in Scotland. It was the Tories' fault what's happening in Scotland, when no, it is the Scottish government's fault why we're in the mess we're in. And he never touched him. He never went after him. He was far too busy going after the Tories, which is fine. He should do. They are in government at Westminster and it is a general election. I understand that. But please, what we're facing in Scotland has got more to do with the SNP than it has got to do with the Tories. That's a fact, because they are in government in Scotland and the problems we are facing are due to them, not the Tories. Now, Douglas Ross. I was disappointed in Douglas, to be honest with you. He's done really well over the last 4 or 5 months in Holyrood. I thought he's been the one person and the one party that's held the SNP accountable in Scotland. He's done brilliantly on the GRR, on the hate bill, on getting rid of Humza. He's done a good job and holding John Swinney accountable. But last night he was not at his best. He was too passive. He didn't step in and fight back when John Swinney was interrupting and bullying as he normally does. And I thought he was too, on the defensive rather than on the attack. And I thought it was quite a poor showing by Douglas. Cole Hamilton, I don't even know why he was there. I really don't. It was pathetic. I don't know what they stand for. I don't know. I don't think he understood half the things that were going on, to be honest with you. No, it was a waste of time, him being there. He was just a stooge on the stage, to be honest with you. And I've very little to say about him and about the Liberal Democrats. I really don't know where they're going at the moment. They were just a non-party. And now to John Swinney. Now, beforehand, he said that this was too much of a difficult time, too important to get into a shouting match. He said, apparently he'd said to the leaders that he would not interrupt when they were speaking as part of the deal. And honest John broke both of them. Both of them promises. He did get into a shouting match. He did make it confrontational. And he interrupted every single time. And I don't know why he didn't get pulled up from it. I don't know why the others allowed that to happen. That was really poor. Every time he asked a question, they start answering, and it'll be yes, wait, yeah, okay, yeah, right then. And he'd interrupt, and he'd basically say, "Well, I've made a little statement of why you're not the right person, or Labour's not the right party. I won't get you. You don't have to answer it. I'll move on to another something else. I'll say something else. And that's what he kept on doing all night. He kept on interrupting all night, and he was allowed to. That was poor by the Labour leader and the Conservative leader. Both allowed that to happen. They didn't pull him up enough on that. And they weren't interrupting it. You know, they were allowing him to make these little speeches that he was making all night. And they never pulled him up on the lies that he was telling, the lies about what the SNP have done and what they want to do, the lies on how they've bypassed the cost of living crisis in Scotland. I don't know how we've done that. You know, how did we do that? You know, the lies about the budget we get, the lies about the austerity that his party has implemented in Scotland, and he blames it on Westminster. But he was allowed to do that. He was allowed to talk about Liz Truss, 44 days as PM. He was allowed to say, though, that destroyed the country. It didn't. She was only Prime Minister for 44 days. It had little or no impact at all. That was just lie after lie after lie. It's been peddled in Scotland for ever since it happened by honest John Swinney and these lot. That somehow that's had a huge effect. It did not. The markets recovered really quickly when they removed Liz Truss. The predictions were long-term predictions if we'd have carried on that path. We didn't carry on that path. Liz Truss was removed as Prime Minister. Someone came in and things have recovered. You know, inflation is down. Cost of living crisis is getting better. The markets are doing well. The economy is starting to grow. But you'd have thought none of that's happened if you'd listened to John Swinney. And he was allowed to go on about the EU as well. Suddenly, they are the party of wanting to get back into the EU, when in fact, we could have had a closer relationship with the EU if they'd have voted at Westminster. They didn't. That wasn't brought up. We'd have left the EU in 2014 if we'd had independence. That wasn't brought up. He was allowed to peddle this nonsense time and time again on stage without being pulled up on it by any of the other leaders. I did think it was a pretty poor debate. And I do think it was, it didn't show politicians in a good light last night. It did show that we have serious issues with the standard of politicians in Scotland, and I think across the UK. And it is a worry. I do worry about the Labour government coming in. I really do. I thought some of the answers last night didn't put me. I wasn't very enthusiastic, and I was a bit worried about what's to come and Labour's policies. Closing the loophole for the super rich, that's great. Yeah, that sounds brilliant. But what happens if they suddenly disappear from the UK? What happens if they say, right, okay, then that's fair enough. I'll take myself and I'll take my business elsewhere. What then? Taxing the super rich. They already are taxed. But taxing them more, fine. Bring more money into the country, you think, but it doesn't. Because these people leave. They will leave and they will take their business as well. We've seen it with other countries that's tried this. And if Labour implement this, we could be in some serious trouble here. We really could. Because whether you like it or not, you have to attract. Since Brexit, we are on our own now. We have to attract people into the UK. We can't do that if you tax the super rich. You can't do that. So we'll have to wait and see how that develops. So yeah, I think it's. I wasn't impressed. I was not impressed. But that's my rant for today. Hope you like, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much for listening, and take care.